Tonight is Sunday night. The show is the Horror and Heroes podcast. Submit if your approval. One cousin Vinny, a man who spends his days immersed in the pages of world-saving superheroes and fantasizing of the day he may become one. His uncle Gio, a movie writer who travels to the most haunted places in the country to find inspiration for his next screenplay. Their cousin Coco, a horror movie fan who still dreams of the day he can wield a prop axe and be a crazed serial killer in a slasher movie. And a miniature figure called Tiffany, a woman whose soul has just been released from, a miniature figure called Tiffany, which on the surface looks like a replica from a movie, but in reality holds the soul of the podcast's long-lost hosts. They join together for their newest episode on the streaming services provided in the Twilight Zone. Good evening, everybody.
Say hi, Tiffany.
Hello.
Oh, she talks. So you know what's happening in there. She's there.
Yeah. Tiffany will be communicating over the text, responding for us.
She's with us in spirit, in miniature. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
You guys doing good? How's your week?
Good.
Watch anything cool this week? Anybody?
Bunch of stuff.
What'd you see? Name something. Let's hear.
I watched Popeye the Slayer. Popeye the Slayer Man.
How was that?
It was so bad.
Yeah.
It was.
Was it bad that it was good?
No.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, it had some fun kills, but they did the squeezing of the head.
Oh, of course.
Like twice. And he only speaks twice in the entire movie. No, it's in the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. He said the first line of the movie and the last line of the movie is him saying, "I am what I am."
Well, I saw that in the trailer. Like he says that in the trailer, and that's his whole.
That's it. He does it twice. He's
Okay.
quiet.
I'm going to probably ask the dumbest question ever, but what's the plot?
So it's like a dockyard, and there's like an urban legend of the killer sailor that haunts his dockyard, and it's like the day before it's going to go on sale and get torn down or whatever, and a high school kid and his girlfriend and another girl are shooting a documentary in it, and he's actually there.
Okay, so it's not like a found footage thing. It's just
No,
like a movie.
it's a movie. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so you know Popeye is based on true person.
I did not.
Yeah, Popeye is based on a Polish American individual that was like nothing gigantic about him. We were talking about this all about your parents and stuff like that, but it was one of those guys that could basically like inhuman strength. But it wasn't wasn't spinach. They did the spinach thing so that kids would eat spinach. But
I was the whole spinach thing was a metaphor for weed. I mean, look at the cartoons. He pops the can. Where does it go?
Into his pipe.
Into his pipe,
Not always.
not into his mouth.
I was gonna say that he wouldn't be fighting.
Right.
He should.
So there's one thing I noticed in the movie. It was one scene early on, and there's two guys that are they're chasing a girl. She hides in the building. They go in after her, and this guy sees Popeye and is like ready to fight him. Now I'm sorry, but if I'm in a situation like that and I see a guy with forearms bigger than my head,
Yes.
I'm not going to be like, "Oh, let Johnny fuck you up." I'm going to run.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, though. It's like in movies like Terminator. It's like you see this guy you don't know is a machine kicking the hell out of all your friends. You think you're going to be the guy to take him down?
Right.
It's like, come on, look what he did to 5 of your friends. Obviously, he's not tired, and he could go for more.
Oh, and also he started out naked.
That too.
Yeah, I'm not fighting.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to fight a naked guy either.
It's actually in the Roadhouse remake. There was a scene where Jake Gyllenhaal beats the crap out of like 7 guys, and the 8th guy is just like, "Yo, I just met them yesterday," and walks away. Like, yes, that's
That's what you would expect.
Do thugs really get paid enough to fight that man?
I know, right? Exactly. I mean, I just never got that aspect of any action movie where like a dude is just kicking the shit out of your friends, kicking the shit out of like guys with like chains and bats and all that stuff. He's able to dodge all of that stuff and just kick the shit out of all of them. It's like, why do you think you're the guy that's going to take him down? Like, have you ever seen the show Reacher? It's like a whole bunch of, like, almost every episode has a scene like that. It's like, dude, come on. This guy is triple your size. It's not going to happen.
Right.
What about you, Gio? Have you seen anything good this week?
I saw a great movie yesterday, but honestly, it's not a horror or anything like that. It was called One Life.
Okay.
It's Anthony Hopkins, which obviously we connected to the fact that
Okay.
It's a true story about this guy that saves like 600 Jewish kids in Nazi Germany, which kind of not to go. I'm not going political topic, but it's weird because when you see what actually real Nazis are like, and you call people Nazis and paint their cars,
Yeah.
it's just stupid.
I
But
get
anyway, I'm gonna get off that right away because I know I'm gonna make more enemies.
Check out Dark and Wicked.
Dark and Wicked.
Oh, that's right. That's
From
what
our, from our co-host Tiffany.
Yeah. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Wait, can you see up my shirt? No.
No, unfortunately not. I don't have money.
Dark and Wicked. It was, you know what? It's funny because she put it on and I wasn't paying attention, and then like halfway through I realized it was good, but I was late because I didn't get any of the stuff. I was like, and I'm not one of those people I was gonna bother her like, oh, now you have to explain everything to me. You know when you're watching the movie, his mother's like that. Oh my god. Oh my God. His mother wants the movie backwards.
Right.
Yeah. Like, how does it end? All right. How did they get there? What happened before that? And then the start.
Yeah. I always give the same response. It's like, I see what you see.
Yes.
How am I going to know something that you don't? We're watching the same movie at the same time. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I see what you see.
Yeah.
My mom is the worst.
No, yeah.
I watched Inception with her for the first time.
Oh,
We both watched it for the first time.
I love it.
And I told her beforehand, I was like, Mom, this movie's very confusing. Don't, at the end of the movie, I'll answer all your questions. She's quiet the entire movie. And then credits are rolling. She goes, I have one question. And I was like, really? That's it? And I was like, okay, what is it? She goes, why did it take the bus so long to fall off the bridge? And it's like, that's like the one thing in the movie that was clearly explained.
Right. Well, I saw this movie called Death of a Unicorn. It was not it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. Because I'm not really a fan of Jenna Ortega, and seeing her face on the screen the whole time, I'm just like, okay. I mean, like, I mostly saw it for like Paul Rudd, but like Will Poulter, he was hilarious in the long. That dude's great. I mean, like, I was talking with a couple of guys afterwards because we were talking before the movie. I was wearing one of my Halloween 3 shirts, and he pointed it out, and like we started bullshitting, and then like after the movie, it's like, okay, what'd you think? He's like, it wasn't good. I'm like, I was like, look, there were some scenes that were okay. I thought, as far as like with any movie goes, when it comes to CGI, I know we talk about this. I know this comes up every episode, but they use CGI for the unicorns, and I just thought it was really bad.
If you real unicorns.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, get them out of hiding.
Get a rhino, put a dress on.
But like the whole point of the movie was the fact that whatever is inside the unicorn, whether it's its blood, like they shave down the unicorn's horn, it cures everything. Like the guy, like the guy who owns the house near where the unicorn got killed had like cancer. They give it to him to make him better. Will Poulter's character fucking snorts the fuck. I knew it was gonna happen. Like exactly. It's like when you see in the trailer that there's unicorn horn dust, somebody's snorting that, and he became a genius.
In the trailer, when they mentioned that it cures cancer, one of them was like, that's the big one.
That's it.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And but he was really funny in it. And one of the things I said to the guy that I was talking to, I was like, he was funny in this. I don't think he was a good choice for Adam Warlock though.
Agreed.
I love the actor. I think he's great. He's great in We Are the Millers.
Yeah. Oh, that was.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, like there was talks for a while that he was going to be Pennywise in the It remake. And I thought that would have been perfect because they wouldn't have had to do anything with his eyebrows because they're already up there. He's got those like eyebrows that are like, this dude's made for high eyebrow shit. Like anything that needs high eyebrows, that's our guy. That's our guy. That's got to be him. I mean,
You could probably do a good Joker too.
yeah, no, yeah, he's definitely, well, yeah, because he even kind of has the map. Like, it would be like perfect. I could totally see him being like a Joker in the future.
You know what else kind of watched? Episodes of the Twilight Zone.
Yes,
Yes.
that's why we're here.
Yes.
We're going to talk about, so the Twilight Zone, we mentioned it last week when we were going through our iconic moments and all that stuff through film history, and the Twilight Zone came up and it was like, Gio had the idea. He's like, why don't we do a whole episode on the Twilight Zone? That's a good idea. Because we all love the Twilight Zone. It's hard not to watch something and see some kind of a reference to it. It's hard not to watch. It's hard to watch a movie nowadays.
It's
and not-
influenced a lot.
Exactly. Because you can see the influence of the Twilight Zone everywhere. Because you'll watch an old episode of Twilight Zone that you might not have ever seen and been like, oh my God, this is just like this movie I saw last week. So one of the things that the thing that we're going to do tonight, and we even asked people, we put it out there, hopefully some people could join us in the chat room. At some point, we'll probably look through the chat, see what you find to be like some of your favorite episodes. But we're going to do a list of 5. We're going to start from number 5. We're all going to give our number 5, come down the list, talk about it. And at some point, maybe we'll go through the chat room and see what you guys think. Twilight Zone has been one of those shows that has been a part of my life for a long time. Part of like anybody who lives in New York knows that is it New Year's, they do the marathon. Me, my sister Maria, your sister-in-law Maria, my brother Cheeto, my sister, they're all here. I just noticed that they're all here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm talking to you. You guys remember what we used to do in my parents' basement with the camera? We would recreate our own Twilight Zone episodes. And we would record it in black and white, and we always did like our own like funny little rendition of it. And it was just always so much fun because like that's how much it influenced us to do our own videos. Like it wasn't anything that we put out. This was before the internet. This was before YouTube. This was just like when someone comes over.
This is like VHS.
Yeah, this is when someone comes over, having a couple of drinks, not necessarily of age, but at the time. But we get drunk, maybe do other things that might not have been legal at the time. I'm not going to say what. And we were just watching, like, check out this new Twilight Zone we did. It's like, friends who weren't there, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, we make Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah. We would make our own movies too, but like doing the Twilight Zone episodes were always fun because we already knew the story. We already knew what we were going to do in the story. We know what parts we're going to make funny, who's going to do what and all that stuff. So that's how much that influenced me and my family and everything that we did.
So anybody for you guys that are online, if you don't remember the title of your favorite episode, just describe it a little bit, and we'll tell you what the title is. I mean, they'll tell you. I'm bad with titles. I'm like you guys. I can tell you what happened, and then break it down.
And one other thing I will mention, if any of us mention an episode that you have not seen, I'm going to call spoiler alert now.
Yeah.
Because most of Twilight Zone episodes have a twist ending.
Yeah.
We might kill it for you if you haven't seen it. But we will tell you, the ones that we chose, you should see.
You had 60 years to watch it.
Exactly.
A little late.
Exactly. If you're 40, you had 40 years to watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going to start? This is how we're going to start. Should I go first? You guys want to go first? How do you want to do it?
Well, first, I want to make sure that we talked about this.
Mhm.
I want to give a general idea of why we love the Twilight Zone. A bunch of reasons. One, it's progenitor to a lot of what happened in movies. A lot of ideas were taken from those short stories that were used there. Yeah. It has a lot to do with the human human behavior under stress, under influence, things that happen. Because when everybody's a gentleman when things are going great. It's when things are going bad, and I've made a reference to it. A lot of the episode has to do with Maslow's pyramid, where basically you fall down from that perfect top of the pyramid where everything's going well, and you're just trying to buy a new car to where you have to survive, which is the bottom of the pyramid. And yes, so we could break down this episode with that in mind.
Okay, so I'll start with my number 5. My number 5 on my top 5 list, and this was really tough. It was really tough picking 5 out of 156 episodes, especially when you haven't really seen all of them. You know, it's like it's so hard to like. This isn't a show that you can just like binge in a week. You need like a month of your life to do it. So my number 5 is A Kind of Stopwatch, season 5, episode 4, 1963. A man named Patrick Thomas McNulty. He's one of those guys that you just want to smack because he won't shut the hell up. He's a guy who works in a garment factory where they make women's garments, you know, under slips, stuff like that. And he stuffs the suggestion box. He says, I have 364 suggestions in that suggestion box. Hopefully they'll pick me. Maybe that's why I'm going into the office. He goes in the office. It's like, dude, what is this? The guy, he's like, let's make hot dogs flat so they could fit in hamburgers. Shit like that. This guy won't shut up. And he just keeps talking and talking, and people just get so sick with him. Goes to the bar, clears the place out because he won't shut up.
Yeah. Every time he walks in the bar, when he just leaves.
Exactly. Like, listen, man, I'd rather climb up my sister's 6-story building with no elevator into a room with no air conditioning and no windows and 5 screaming kids and watch it there. You know what she doesn't have? A McNulty.
Yeah.
So he meets his old man. He sits over there with him because there's one guy that just didn't leave yet. Buys him a beer, and the guy says, I'm going to give you this family heirloom. It's a stopwatch. Starts, the bartender starts sweeping up. He drops a glass, sweeps it up, presses the button. Everything stops. He's like, what's going on? Are you okay? Like, he's like, all I did was sit down here and press the button, and then everything continues. And he realizes that it's this stopwatch that's stopping everything and restarting everything. So he goes around, does whatever. He's looking out the window. He's doing testing it on his fishbowl, looking out his window, checking everything. Goes back to his old job to like try and like, you know, sell it, you know. But every time he presses it, everything stops. So it's not like he can really show them how it works. So he just like makes a mess of everything, like just kind of like, you know, messes with his old boss. Yeah, puts flour in his pocket, puts the, you know, all that stuff. Then he gets bright idea. I'm gonna rob a bank. Goes into the bank, presses the button, walks right into the vault, pulls out a tray filled with money, grabs whatever's in the open registers, all that stuff, starts pulling back out, drops the watch, broken. Time is stopped forever. And I love that episode. That is my number 5. And they actually remade it in the 1985 one. It was called A Little Peace and Quiet. It was with the mother from A Christmas Story. It's a little different. She found like a sundial. What was her name? Melinda Dillon. She found a sundial. She has to scream "shut up" for everything to stop. And I know I spoke about this already, but that
Adam Sandler did it also in a comedy.
Yeah, but yeah, that is one of my favorite episodes. I just love the idea of being able to stop time, not necessarily to rob a bank. I say not necessarily, but just the idea of stopping time and just walking around, just seeing people stop and see if there's anybody else who can stop time. You know, it's like I stop time and that guy's moving. It's like, hey, dude, what's going on? What do you imagine that? Hey, what do you think of that? No, wait, what do you always say? What do you think of that? Or something like that. That's what that was like his catch type like line in the episode. But yeah, I mean that's my number 5.
My number 5 is one everybody probably knows. All right, this guy right here. Nightmare at 20,000 feet. You know, William Shatner. He's him and his wife are getting on a plane. He's on his way home from just released from an asylum. And he sees this gremlin on the wing. And you know, that gremlin, as bad as it looks now, but when I was a kid, that thing was terrifying. Yeah. But what's more is that, you know, he sees it and he tries to tell his wife, he tries to tell the stewardess, he tries to tell the pilot. Nobody believes him. They just think he's crazy, you know? And you know, he's like, he's ripping up the wing. And then they carry him off the plane on a stretcher. And that shot at the end where it just shows the wing all ripped up, like, you know, it was actually there. It was, you know.
Right, and that's
or he even calls the emergency and gets half sucked out to shoot at the thing, you know. And everybody just thought he was crazy. Nobody believed him, but he was telling the truth.
See, like but that's the thing I always thought about the ending was it because he was telling the truth, or did something like was it supposed to be something that actually tore up the wing, but because he's crazy, that's I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like, it just leaves it.
Could it have been him shooting? Is what that's the one.
Exactly, and that's what makes that the ending of that episode so like chilling. It's you just kind of wondered, was there really something on the wing, or was that because he shot at it, or was it because something was up there? It's just that really is one of the most classic episodes.
And the scene where it shows the gremlin's face up close outside the window,
right up to the window,
and he screams to the stewardess, and then you just see he just climbs up. Like that's awesome.
Oh, and when he first comes in, he's just kind of like floats in.
Yeah,
like during one of the scenes, he just like floats in. It's like I love that stuff though. I mean, because when you see the shot of the airplane, you can see the string coming from the top. It's just a model, but it's it was great. Exactly.
That's what the technology you had. That you use whatever you could, and it did a pretty good job at it. Yeah. My number 5. Most people know it or have a reference to it anyway, even if they don't know it. Is To Serve Man. The quick synopsis. Basically, aliens come, and they're telling everybody that they're here to help and give great things to mankind, stuff like that, and offer to bring them to their planet for like a vacation type thing, and then they see the book and it's a book, and everybody knows that.
The aliens have a book.
Right.
That when we translate the title of the book is To Serve Man. It's on the inside of this cup, but there's liquid inside. I can't tell you. The title of the book is To Serve Man. Like we finally translated, and like the girl tries to stop the guy from getting on the plane.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cookbook. It's To Serve Man.
And then it was too late. He just pushes the hatch shut.
Yeah, they just push him up.
He's standing there with his arms out like, I got him.
And then the shot of the guy on the plane, like he refuses to eat, and the alien's like, "We gotta fatten you up."
Yeah, pretty much.
Again, that was Simpsons. Simpsons just spoofed that. This is a perfect example. Again, without getting into it too much, but how we as a society will look at something beneficial so quickly, or will without questioning why is something like this happening?
Just a very easy.
How gullible we are when we want something more. When we want something, and we basically put in a situation where we've decided that we don't that we're not going to think why they're doing this for us, and that's basically To Serve Man.
Yeah, then that's one of the things that makes it. That's one of the things that makes it scary, that people are just so easily get on that spaceship to another planet, billions of miles away. Oh, it only takes a few days.
If it happened today, come on.
Well, that's the thing.
Half the country would jump on that ship.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because even as they were landing, people were pointing up at the UFO in the sky. But once they landed and the thing started, or what do they call them? The aliens. They started talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, they're here to be our friends."
Yeah.
They were just so very easily swayed by that.
Well, think about it. If somebody came and let's say people were dying, and somebody said to you, "Come to our planet. We have a vaccine that you can take, and you'll take that vaccine and you won't die." And then you find out that vaccine does shit. That's kind of what we're talking about here.
Dude, I'm not that easily swayed by actual people.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to get used to people. Like when I have new people at work, I give them the stare down. I'm just like, "Oh, hey, my name is Mike," and I'm just like,
I'm good.
Exactly. I'm not going to go into a spaceship with an alien with a giant freaking butthead who looks like Michael Shannon.
Honestly, you know what? If you want to do that nowadays, they'd have to have size D. boobs.
Well,
Then you get us.
exactly. I mean, I don't think, I feel like I can't trust a dude with a giant head that makes him 9 feet tall. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
The candidates.
Yeah, yeah. So they're going to have to drag me onto that UFO. I'm not coming willfully. I'm not strong enough for that.
I'm probably one of those idiots that gets on. Like, let's go.
Yeah, and then when I never see you again, I'm like,
No,
hey, that motherfucker.
but he's also like, you know, they can eat me. Start with my feet. You know,
Please eat my feet, and I don't want the rest.
Yeah, I don't know if they just eat you up or they clean you first or what, but that's gross. I wouldn't. I don't want to be anybody's dinner. Like I said, they're gonna have to steal me. So,
you know, the game of pool.
oh, Jack Clubman,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So my number 4, Nick of Time, season 2, episode 7, 1960. Another William Shatner episode. This is one of my favorites. William Shatner and his wife. They stop in this small town because their car broke down, and they go into this diner to get lunch. And there's this little machine on the table. It's a little box with a little bobble devil head on it. You put a penny in it, ask it a yes or no question, kind of like a magic 8-ball, but it costs a penny. And you ask it a yes or no question, and it'll give you a yes or no answer. So he starts putting pennies into it, asking it questions, and it starts giving him responses that were very attuned to what they were doing, to his life, to his situation, like stick around and find out type of stuff. So you're saying I should stay here till 3 o'clock? Signs point to yes, or whatever it said. And it's just, they go outside at 3 o'clock and they almost get hit by a car. Now, the whole story goes on people's superstitions, whether or not you're easily swayed by a machine like that telling you that your life is going to be a certain way because I just told you that, or you're going to psych yourself out to the point where stuff like that does happen. So it kind of puts you in a position to wonder, was that going to happen anyway? Or was it because they were thinking 3 o'clock, they left it just before 3 o'clock, and this is how this all happened? And he just became obsessed with it to the point where the wife was like, no, we got to go. I don't want to do this anymore, and all this stuff. And it was just such a good story because there are people who are so superstitious, that they would believe that. It's like black cat crossing your path type of stuff. And you won't cross the street because a black cat just crossed your path. And it's like, so he became so immersed in this, and it just took over his whole day. And, his wife had to be the voice of reason until she started asking him questions, and it was like responding in tune to what she was asking. Like, when will I ever get married? She was already married, thinking that he's going to say, oh, well, just to show him, but it was an answer. It's like, you already know the answer or something like that. So just the thought of superstition and encasing somebody so badly that he could not leave this diner, even if his car was ready. The thing told him he was going to get a promotion, calls the job, he's got the promotion. So he attributes it to this machine telling him that he did. It's not, oh, it was my work. And that's how people get sometimes. Yeah. Whether it's religion or whatever, it's like you can believe whatever you want. However, whatever gets you through the day, I don't judge. But that's, it just drove him nuts. Stuff like that drives people nuts.
Well, it's funny. I'll say, like, I'm agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
Christian agnostic. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm Christian because my parents want me to be Christian, so I'm Christian. But I'm agnostic, but I still do a sign of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though it's just, I know it doesn't, like when Napoli was playing today, my soccer team, I'll do the sign of the cross for good luck that I win. Well, you know what? If somebody from the other team was doing the same sign of the cross, doesn't it zero itself out?
Who knows? But I get that in the sense of it's the superstition over. And that's the funny thing, because we're Italian, and I tell people all the time, Italians are more superstitious than they are religious.
Yeah.
When it comes to certain things, you just kind of like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
My mother, when I first moved, my mother got me a set of knives, and she said,
you had to give $1.
She said, give me a nickel. So I said, what's the nickel for? She says, ask your father. I know this is starting out like a cheesy old school joke, but I go ask my dad. I said, Dad, Mom asked me to give her a nickel for the knives. What's the deal? He says it's bad luck to give somebody knives as a gift. So if you gave her a nickel, you paid for them, so there's no bad luck.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't even say anything. I'm like,
His father gave me a knife once, and I had to give him like a quarter or something like
and
that.
I'm like, well, I mean, my mom only asked for a nickel. It was a whole set.
And his was a good knife.
Okay. I mean, these are steak knives. They worked. But to me, I couldn't even speak. I'm like,
In Italy, whenever you pass in front of a cemetery, you have to scratch your balls. And it was only until I was like 16 years old, I turned to my dad and I said, well, what do the girls do? You know? Like,
I thought you had to hold your breath when you walk in.
no, you had to scratch your balls.
Because you get the dead people jealous. You make the dead people jealous.
It was bad luck. So yeah, scratch your balls, then you would be next. What was your number 4?
The twist ending on yours.
Well, was it? I don't know.
I mean, what do you get to the ending?
Well, I don't know if it would even be considered a twist ending, but when they finally leave the diner, another couple comes in, has a whole stack of pennies there, starts asking me questions, but they were both immersed in it. So you know they were there already.
Yeah.
They were there already, and they were coming back from work. So I don't know if that would be considered a twist ending. It's an interesting ending, but.
And there's just one thing I want to mention about that episode real quick. There was one shot, like we're talking about superstition, to show how superstitious the wife was. Because I think it's like right before they get up to leave the diner before the car. She's got a keychain that is a rabbit's foot that she's rubbing, and there's a 4-leaf clover keychain on it also. So it's like that subtle little detail shows how superstitious she is.
Well, yeah, because like I always took it as those were his car keys, but she was rubbing it. It was his, but she was rubbing it because she was feeling a little unlucky herself, and that's a good thing to bring up.
So my number 4 is the dummy. I first of all, stories with like killer ventriloquist dolls specifically always freak me out. Reading Goosebumps when I was a kid. Slappy, exactly. So in this one, the guy's a ventriloquist. He's somewhat successful, but he starts noticing that the doll is alive, and he tells his manager, and the manager tells him, "Oh, you're drunk." He tries to do another routine with a different dummy, and it just wasn't right.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he sits down to do his show, and you hear the talking, but the camera's like from behind, and as it comes around, the dummy's face is on the dude's body, and the dude's face is on the dummy's body. So like they switched places. It's creepy. It's creepy, yeah, exactly.
I think it was creepier seeing that there's a guy who actually looked like a dummy. Because I was an actor.
They probably made dummies to look like the guy.
Well, obviously.
And then finally, I look like the dummy.
It'd be funny if they did. Like, we got this guy. Who looks like this guy? Who looks like this dummy?
There was one time while he was doing his show where like the dummy was saying how good he was without the guy, and they like switched voices, and it's like
That was
like Jeff Dunham and all that. Like none of them ever done anything like that.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Whereas like the dummy is the ventriloquist and the guy is the dummy. Like that's an interesting.
Yeah.
I think that would make it interesting. I might actually watch ventriloquist.
Yeah, but now because it was in the Twilight Zone, anybody who sees that would be like, they did that in the Twilight Zone.
Exactly.
But it would still be cool. It would still be interesting to see.
Well, you say that, but a lot of people don't realize that, a lot of what, a lot of the stuff was done in the Twilight Zone first. I was trying to think, there's an episode where this guy goes to heaven and he loves to gamble. He's a bad guy. He loves to gamble and he wins all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he starts telling the angel that's there that, well, this sucks. I don't, if you win all the time, it's not fun. He said, what kind of heaven is this? And the guy's like, and all of a sudden it gets dark and, well, this ain't heaven. I never said this was heaven.
Right.
Everybody does that twist. But that was done, again, 50, 60 years ago. So, so imagine then when nobody had seen it before. Well, again, they probably saw it in
Well,
you know,
from
Shakespeare's and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so yeah, there's all these twists have been done in one way or the other. With my so, and I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but from Agnes with Love. And the reason I'm going to butcher it is because I didn't rewatch it, so I kind of remembered it, but I also remember it because it was spoofed on The Simpsons. But basically, it's a scientist that and you're going to have to help me out here. But the scientist starts creates AI basically, and the AI gets a personality and falls in love with him or whatever. So and starts getting jealous and all this other stuff, which is weird because again, this was created so long ago, but it's so relevant to now where we're looking at all this AI stuff. How it can, it says it can, it could replicate humans. I don't think it can really, because I don't think it could get that stupid. But it's interesting how back then they were warning about technology taking over, and it has. Whatever it's made life easier because everybody thinks they're intelligent because we have this thing in front of us that answers all our questions, but most people don't know shit.
Well, it's why they call it a smartphone and not smart people.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a great episode because of that warning. It was more of a warning than a twist.
They used to say that the lack of access to information would create stupid people. It's the exact opposite.
Well,
Yes.
I found this episode very interesting because you got this machine that is used for science, and this machine finds out that this scientist that's been working on it for all this time, when he goes in there, the other scientist is leaving, and he basically says, "Watch out for this thing." Yeah. And he's using this machine, asking it questions, and this machine finds out that he's got a crush on a woman in the office who works in the building, and this machine's like, "Yeah, ask her out. Do this, do that." And he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And every time this guy takes the machine's advice, it fucks up. Something happens. Bring her to your house for champagne. He spills champagne on her. Bring her roses. She's allergic to roses. Take her to meet your friend, the one who drives a sports car and is very handsome.
Yeah.
She ends up dancing in his apartment with him. And the guy's just like, "Why do you keep telling me to do these things?" And the machine basically says, "I'm in love with you." And he's like, "You're a machine. Like, what is going on?"
You can't feel it.
Exactly. Well, you are a machine. You can't feel anything.
If you find the right plug, the right size.
Well, I mean, listen, but it just goes to show you how much technology is advanced at this point. I mean, you can have your Agnes fit in your closet at this point. And I feel like a real woman. In fact, they're called real women.
Yeah, I will tell you, I've seen it happen. Like my microwave has attacked Tiffany.
Is that how she got in that little
Yes,
dollar?
that's how-
Is that she got the spirits?
It's shrunk.
That's a horror movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Great.
Yeah, we're at number 3. I'm going to say my number 3 is 5 characters in search of an exit. I feel bad because this is like really bright. The light is really bright for this. I'm going to take it down. This is, this is, I don't know if you can see. I got to like turn the little lights on. These are the 5 characters that were in search of the exit. Yeah. Another one of the many Twilight Zones my brother, his sisters, and I remade back in the day. So it's from season 3, episode 14, 1961. You got 5. All of a sudden, it starts on an army major. He wakes up in this cylindrical room. It's huge, and the top of it, you can see it's stories high. At least it feels that way. He's walking around, feeling for like some kind of exit, and nothing. Trips over a clown, or walks into a clown on the floor. Asks him what's going on. He's like, "Oh, like the clown's funny, making jokes at him, whatever." Turns around, finds out that there's a ballerina there. So you got the army major, the clown, the ballerina, a hobo or a tramp, whatever you want to call him, and a bagpiper. The whole episode, they're trying. This army major's like, "We got to get out of here. Like, we got to find a way to do this." And they all like line up on top of each other. They're trying to get out. This whole episode is them trying to get out. And the army major's like, "All right, I want to get out of here." The clown's like, "No, you're not going to get out of here." Just busting his chops the whole way. hilarious. They finally think maybe this is hell, or we're in limbo. The tramp said, meaning purgatory. And finally, they figure out a way to get out. He finally gets to the top, has his sword tied to a rope, throws it over, and pulls himself up, and falls out of this giant cylinder. Next thing, you see him falling into a pile of snow. The next thing you see is footsteps next to this little doll on the floor. Girl picks it up and says, "Oh, this must have fallen out. It doesn't look like you have much in there." She's like, "Yeah, just throw it back in the bin." It was a bin to donate dolls to an orphanage or a girls' school, I think it was.
Like Toys for Tots.
Yeah. So that's how that ended. Turns out the whole time they were just dolls in a bin for donation. That episode was just so, it was one of those episodes that you just kind of look at. When it ends, you just kind of like, how the hell? Yeah. Because you just see people in this room, in a saloon, in a round room. No way out. There's nothing to grab onto. They have to climb on top of each other to get out. And I just love this episode because it's one of those ones that just like it's one of those things that you can never guess what it was that they were.
Yeah.
And just such a strong ending. I'm just like, holy shit. Like I never would have guessed.
If there's no telegram to that end.
Right.
There's no way of knowing what's coming, and it just out of nowhere. There it goes.
He never would have, again, I never would have guessed it.
There is a mistake in that episode.
Which is?
When the major is trying to get out, when he first arrives and grabs his sword and he stabs the wall, he actually makes a hole.
Right.
They don't acknowledge it or anything. It's like, so I'm assuming that the hole wasn't supposed to be made.
I think so, yeah.
And it's never seen on camera again. It's never mentioned. But it's like, if they made a little tiny hole, that's your way out.
Yeah. Right, but I didn't think that was supposed to happen. I think it was
right. That's why I think it was a mistake.
Yeah, I think the sword broke too.
The sword did break.
Yeah, so I think it was supposed. Maybe it was just a mark on it that it made. But.
No, it was clearly wrong. And it's just that one shot where you see
it. Obviously, yeah, that definitely was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're number 3.
My number 3 is Time Enough at Last.
Great episode.
Yeah. The guy's, he's a banker. He spends his breaks reading books in the vault. He just wants to be left alone with his books. And he's in the vault reading. He comes out, and then the world has ended. Everything is destroyed. Everybody's gone, and he finds a library, and he's so happy. It's like he's in this wasteland, but he's got his books. He stacks the books according to, I'm going to read these this month, and this month, and these next year, and just all ready. And he sits down to read, and his glasses fall off his face, and they shatter, and now he can't see. Like he finally gets what he wants, and it's taken away from him. And it's,
It's not fair.
It's not fair. Yeah.
Who would have known?
And his glasses were like my dad's old glasses. They were like Coke bottles on his face.
Yep. That is a great, and it has a very similar ending to a kind of stopwatch.
Right.
It's like I'm stopping time. I'm going to do what I want. Clock breaks.
Right.
Everybody's gone. I can read. Some things that I never understood about that.
Just be careful what you wish for type message.
Exactly. The only thing that I never got about that episode, why were people so against him reading?
Right.
I get it if he was reading. Well, I mean, he was reading on the job.
I didn't understand his boss. Why was his wife pissed?
He covered all the letters in his just scribbled all the books.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you do this? I'm like, yeah, why?
I mean, he loved the books more than he loved her. But I mean, he wasn't cheating.
Yeah.
He was sitting home reading the book.
and that was the time too, where that was like the thing that couples did. Sit in the room and read together.
Right.
Well, there's like jazz playing on the radio or on a record, but it's like, why didn't they want him to read? She scribbled all the pages. Why? why would you do this?
It's like I could see that episode being remade today with its PS5 instead of
Yeah, but
it's latest video.
that made him so angry that he became a boxing coach.
Yeah.
In Rocky.
Yes, yes.
Get on Rocky.
I think I need to make sure that people understand that.
Burgess Meredith was the man in the show, the main character. He also played Mickey in the Rocky movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot, but not everybody.
What was your number 3?
Oh, so number 3, I put Where Is Everybody? I put it for a couple of reasons. One, like, when you watch it, it kind of gets to you. It makes, especially somebody like me that I'm already nervous. I'm a nervous person as it is, and anxiety. It gives you anxiety. But the whole episode basically revolves around a guy that he's just walking around. He doesn't remember where he came from. He walked into a cafe. He's trying to order food because he's hungry. He's trying to do other stuff. He walks into a town. There's nobody around in this town. Nobody. He can't. And what happens is the twist at the end is basically he's an Air Force pilot training to go into space. This is before it's funny because this is before the moon landing. So he's training to go into space, and they're basically training him to be able to, be without people for like weeks at a time, like no communication with people.
Right.
Because that was that big isolation training. But and so he didn't really snap because they said, because the journalists were like, well, was it a success? Yeah, it was. He lasted a couple of weeks. That was all
He
they
lasted over 500 hours.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
Right. That's all we needed from him.
The journalist said, that the average person would snap.
Yeah.
At like 48.
Yes.
Something like that.
The other reason I put it in there was because it is the first episode of the Twilight Zone.
It is, yes.
Yeah, what an introduction to the series, though.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being there? It's a new show, The Twilight Zone, this Thursday night or whatever it was. You put it on, and it's like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
In 1959, seeing that.
Yeah.
What? And the thing, like, rewatching it to, for the memory to remember just that scream at the end.
Yeah.
Help me! Help
He
me!
did the thing and he broke a clock and he broke the clock in his memory. Well, and that's what they say. They say that, well, we can replicate towns and cities, but we can't replicate communication with people. Companionship. So that's, he's going to have to learn how to be able to do that. And it's funny because I was thinking about the fact that, like, one of the things that I always say that, like, the Blair Witch Project, I gave it a lot of compliments of what happened, what it did and what it created and stuff like that. But it's basically an hour and a half, 2 hours of a bunch of nothing to get to nothing, right?
Mhm.
That's, in my opinion, that's where I see it. So somebody would say, well, isn't this the same thing? Yes, but this was 15 minutes. So if the Blair Witch Project was 15 minutes, I might have watched it again. Well, you could, right? You say at the beginning, there's a witch, and you're at the end of the court.
Right. I like to see the end of that when they're taking him out of the box, and he's looking up at the moon. And just like,
Don't go anywhere.
yeah, don't go anywhere. I'm coming for you. Like, that was great. Yeah.
So I'm going to go into my number 3. I'm sorry, we're at number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. A World of His Own. Season 1, episode 36, 1960. Last episode of the first season. And I feel like when you watch this episode, I feel like they probably didn't know if they were going to be going more than one season, because this would have been a great way to just totally end the series. Yeah. So you have a man, he's a writer, he's a screenwriter, screenplay writer or playwright. And he was able to describe people so well into his little recording machine, because back then you had to use tape to record your messages and a little microphone. He was able to explain things so well that they would come to life. So it starts off with him on the couch with a woman talking, living it up. She's making him a martini. And then it's like, this is Greg, this is Mary. and there's his wife who comes walking by, looking in the window and sees him sitting on the couch. She comes in. Where's that woman? Where is she? I know she's in here somewhere, knocking on the walls. Like, where's their, the escape hatch and all that stuff? Yeah. So he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And finally, he has to admit to her, okay, look, I can speak into this microphone and record a description of something and it comes to life. He starts describing Mary again, what she's wearing, what she's doing. She's walking outside the house. She's coming into the door and she's about to walk into the study. And the wife is like, no, she left out of some escape hatch, secret door, and she came around the house. I don't know why you're trying to play with me. He's like, no, look. So what he would do is to get rid of her, cut the piece of tape where he explained who she was, throw it in the fire, and poof, she's gone. So she's like, you're crazy. I'm gonna, he does what he can to keep it from going. And explains an elephant to block her path, and there it is. Doesn't say that.
With red eyes.
Yeah. So she goes. He shows her, he's like, look, I don't want to do this, but look, this is you. He has an envelope with her name on it, and this is the tape where I used to explain you. She's like, oh, basically bullshit. Takes it, throws it in the fire, poof, she's gone. He's like, oh my God, now I got to explain her back. Explains her, he stops himself. He's like, why do I want that bitch anymore?
Yeah.
Like, what? He explains Mary, and now she's his wife. One of the best things.
What is twin now? No.
Greatest twist ending, and I didn't expect this, when Rod Serling, spoiler alert, I'm saying it again, spoiler alert, if you did not see this one, do not listen. Rod Serling gives his epilogue, and he says, obviously this could never happen. This is just silly fiction and whatever. And then all of a sudden, Greg, the screenwriter, Rod, how dare you say such things, fiction and silly. Walks over to the safe where he has all his characters, has an envelope that says Rod Serling on it, throws it in the fire. I guess that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, perfect to me. Yep.
And it's like, he would have said, I guess that's just the way it goes in the Twilight Zone. But he never gets to say it because poof, he's gone.
Yeah.
I love that episode so much. I didn't think I was going to explain the whole episode just now. It's like I'm trying to give like a little synopsis of it, but it's like, that one was it just grabbed me so much at that end because I did not expect that. It's like, that's the host of the show. Yeah, that's the host of the show.
The thing, you could give spoiler, you could spoil this stuff because you would watch it and it will still give you goosebumps.
Dude, that's my number 2.
Yeah.
Now, the list that I made, I go by how often I've watched these particular episodes. And don't get me wrong, of course, we all have our honorable mentions. Yeah. There are other episodes that we love. These are just the ones that we know of, that we watch, that we could say, well, I've seen this one like 8,000 times. Number 2 was, I've seen it 10,000 times. Number 1, 100,000 times.
I'll say that this episode, I didn't see it until after I got your list, and I made sure to watch it. Had I seen it earlier, it probably would have made my list.
And I feel like if you had seen it earlier, even if you saw it last week for the first time,
It probably would have made my list.
Probably would have made it, but I think you still would have watched it again because it is such a good.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
That's why it's number 2.
Right. My number 2, No Time Like the Past. It's actually one of the few hour-long episodes, which I'm wondering if back then when it was on TV, was it like a 2-part or was it just an hour-long episode?
It's possible.
But now I'm Paramount, but it doesn't like the to be continued.
It does give you that little
commercial break. Yeah. But great. It's a guy who travels back in time. He wants to stop major events. He tries to do what's the first one?
Hiroshima.
He wants to Hiroshima to try to warn them about the bomb. He tries to assassinate Hitler while he's making his speech, and he tries to have the Lusitania.
Yeah.
Sorry if I couldn't say that right.
No, it's fine.
The Lusitania should just veer off course by 1 degree so it doesn't get torpedoed. And it's like, the guy, the Hiroshima, they don't believe it. And it's like he leaves and then the bomb drops. Hitler, he got the gun jams. And before he can change another bullet, the maid comes back with the cops and he has to, go back to the present. The Lusitanian, yet they don't believe him that it's that it's going to happen, and he leaves. So he decides he's going to go back to 1881 and to a small town like I want to say Oklahoma.
It was Indiana.
Indiana, like just a Midwest small town, right?
In
And
the old West. Midwest and the old West.
yeah, and he wants to just live his life there, where it's quiet. And he gets there on July 3rd, because he knows that there's gonna be a big band show, and then he falls in love with the school teacher, and she tells him, "Oh, I'm gonna practice with the kids. You gotta practice for the concert tomorrow." And he runs back in the house and he reads his notes, and the schoolhouse, there's a fire on July 3rd, and so it's like, and 12 kids are badly injured. So he wrestles with does he change it or does he not? But then him trying to stop it is actually what causes the fire. And it's like, so that he has to come back to the present day and knowing that there's nothing he can do, and it's, I love time travel stuff, Terminator and Time Machine, I love it. Time travel is great, and there's a lot of stories where like it's where time is linear. If somebody travels to the past, they were always there.
Right.
It like in our past, it already happened where they were there. So like this story, the only way he could stop that fire was to not be there at all, because he's what caused it.
Right.
And, him trying to stop an event that he knew was going to happen is what caused the event. Yes, it's kind of a paradox, but at the same time, it was supposed to happen.
My issue with that though is, I mean, obviously it's in hindsight. We're watching we're the outsider. We're looking at the story unfolding. He's like, unhatch the horses.
Right.
Why didn't he just blow out the freaking lantern?
Exactly. And there's so many things he could have done.
It's like, blow out the lantern. Like,
Right.
I'm just saying.
But he had to cause it.
Right.
But
And
that's
that's
he had cause
So,
and effect.
so fun fact, not fun fact, I'm sorry, useless fact, Gio's useless fact.
we should get a bell every time.
Yeah, no. When they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, there was a guy there who basically it dropped, and he didn't die from it, and he was in his car. He got in his car, he drove to Nagasaki.
Yep.
Got hit on the
And
other
he
bomb.
survived Nagasaki as well.
They survived 2 nuclear bombs. I think
The only 2 nuclear bombs.
I think that he met his wife and he killed himself.
One of the things I gotta say though, I'm trying to remember the line. It was funny because the main character was talking with I think the guy was playing the French horn, and he's like, yeah, they were talking about the teacher and
School marm.
school marm, and he says that he's like, yeah, we didn't have school marms like that when I was a kid. All my school marms looked like they came out of a pickle jar.
Yep.
I had to rewind that like 3 times because that was just so hilarious. But as I'm watching it, I mean, you like the butterfly effect, right? Were you a fan of that movie?
That movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Depressing.
Very.
Right, but that's what I was thinking of when I was watching it. I was
Right.
like, this makes sense. I know Vinny likes the butterfly effect, and this is probably where that derived from.
It could be.
Because whereas in the butterfly effect, I know that they do actually do things where they change the future or change the present.
Well, you do one thing in the past, and it's how does it affect the future?
And with this episode, it was he made sure not to do that.
Right.
So I feel like maybe someone saw that and was like, what if they did do that? Let's make a movie about that.
Well, that's the butterfly effect.
That's what I'm saying. Whoever made the butterfly effect.
By the way, if you like that movie, if you haven't seen the director's cut, see the director's cut. The ending is very different and very brutal. I don't even want to mention it on air. So if you haven't seen the director's cut and like the movie, definitely check that out. Huh?
Which was that? Is that the ending where he basically loses both his arms and legs?
No, the director's cut. I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
So you're number 2?
My number 2 is The Shelter. And again, we're talking about earlier how quickly society can delve in, go into complete chaos. It's basically what is it, nuclear war? Again, they love the
war is coming.
Remember, this was happening during the 50s, the 60s, when nuclear war was thought to be imminent. So they made movies about it. They made shows about it. So one family had a shelter, a bomb shelter, and the other family didn't. They kind of made fun of them, right?
It was the two neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbors, and the family that didn't have the bomb shelter was making fun of that one. But obviously, now the end of the world's coming. They go to their shelter, and the other family wants to get in, and basically, but they had enough food for just their family to last. So, and it's not going to be as nice and cozy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things where you're not as neighborly, but it's just like anything else. If you have to survive. When you have to survive, you will be knocked down notches to your basic human behavior, and that's what I was talking about, the Maslow's pyramid, where survival, you're not going to be as friendly. You will not be the person you think you are. Everybody is great and polite, and when you need to be. When life is when things are
Comes to it, every man for themselves.
Every man for themselves. Like I kind of mentioned this off the air earlier, saying like we kind of like shocked when you think about in the Middle Ages or medieval times that people used to abandon their kids and leave, or like they're gonna die. That's why you had 20 kids, because 3 or 4 of them survived, and it was just part of that, because you basically had enough food. Actually, I'll give you a better idea. If I have kids, and I always make sure my kids eat first before I eat. But if you go only 2 generations away, the man ate first because he had to have the energy to go work to make more food and stuff like that. But we don't need that anymore. We have way more food than we need. So you kind of make sure that your kids eat first, and then you eat, and then the wife eats at the end, and the mom. But that's basically, it comes down to the fact that because life is so much simpler now. But if you brought it back down, 400 or 500 years ago, man was going to eat first, and he was going to eat hearty, and then everybody else got to eat whatever he didn't eat. Actually, that's what I'm
So I
sorry.
remember with my dad, he would make his plate first.
Yeah.
But he would make sure everybody else had seconds
Yeah.
before he took the second plate.
Well, I was going to say there's an old again was about the
Geo's useless information.
Don't throw baby with the bathwater.
Don't throw baby out of the bath.
Bathwater comes from the fact that the dad used to take a bath, then the mom took a bath, then the older kids took the bath, and finally the baby would get washed in the filthy, dirty water. And they said, make sure you don't throw away the baby when you throw away the bathwater.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, that's my number 2.
All right, so before we go into number 1, you want to check see what some of the people are saying in the chat room, if at all. So Patricia Ann mentioned, she asked what was the episode with the camera that can see the future. It was called The Most Unusual Camera. That was actually one of my honorable mentions, but I forgot to put it down. Basically, this couple, they're gamblers, they find this camera that whenever they take a picture of something, it tells them like what's about to happen within the next couple of minutes.
Right.
So at one point, they're like swindlers, they rob, they're robbers, whatever you call them, burglars. So one of the things they come upon is this camera. They're like, well, it's like a Polaroid camera. So they're like, well, let's take a picture. And they take a picture, and it shows his wife in like a fur coat, and then the next thing they know, it's like, I forgot how she gets the fur coat, but she gets the fur coat. They take a picture of the door. They're like, how does that work? They take a picture of the door, and they see her like basically bum brother, like jerk off dumbass brother who like escaped from prison. It's like, what's he doing here? He's like, oh yeah, just going out, like one of those type of guys. So like, oh wait, we should take this to the tracks, to the horse racing, and they take a picture of the scoreboard, and then they go make their bets. They get rich, and then they start like fighting over it, and it's like one of the things you see is like her falling out the window, and it happens. Like it was just a crazy episode, and that's another one of the episodes that I really enjoyed myself.
Wait, are you about to go? Go ahead. Keep
Oh
going.
no! I was just
Don't do your number one yet.
no. I'm not gonna do my number one. I mean, I can also go through some of my honorable mentions, but Neil Damiano. He meant one of the ones that he mentioned that you mentioned before was a game of pool with Jack Klugman.
Yep.
Jack Klugman from the show The Odd Couple,
Yes.
the dirty one. What was his name on the show again? Felix was the
Oscar.
good one. Oscar was the dirty one. So it's like he's one of the best pool players in town. He's beaten everybody else, but there was a pool player who was considered the best, in anywhere, but he was dead.
Right.
What was he called? It was like Fats Brown or something like that.
Wasn't that the honeymoon guy? Or was it the different actor?
Oh shit!
I think it might have been.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I just remembered that name,
Yeah.
Fats Brown. At least I think that's what his name was. But he's like I'm never going to be the best because I never got to beat him. And all of a sudden the guy walks in and they play a game of pool. All he ever did was like badmouth this dead guy who was, I think he had like his picture up in the pool hall and all that stuff. And then basically his ghost comes walking in. He's like, all right, let's see how this goes. And another one of those cool, interesting episodes.
I was going to say the twist here was basically that he wins, and that he but now he has, and Fats Brown is happy that he lost because now the other guy has to now basically go on forever,
Right.
defending.
Exactly. And then maybe even after he dies, he's gonna have to come back and face the next loudmouth.
Yep.
But another episode that I really love. I actually mentioned it in the promo video. It's a Good Life. Season 3, episode 8, 1961. Billy Mooney, and at least I think I'm saying his name right. The little redhead kid. His actual name, Billy Mooney, and Cloris Leachman was it. And basically, this kid who has these powers to basically turn anybody into like anything that he wants, and when someone's bad or has bad thoughts about him, into the cornfield.
Yeah.
So they're at this guy's birthday party. The guy gets a record. He's like, "Oh, I want to listen to it." And of course, the kid Anthony, he's like, "Well, I don't want to listen to that." He's like, "It's my birthday. I want to listen to my record. Come on, like, what's going on?" Kid's like, "Hey, you're a bad man," and it's like, "Somebody, please kill him! Like, grab a bat, something, hit him!" And then he turns him into like a Jack in the Box. So you just see like his head bobbing back and forth. And he was actually in the Agnes episode. He was the first guy who Agnes fell in love with. At least that's what they alluded to. And they're like, "Oh, stop, make it stop, send him to the cornfield." They sent him to the cornfield, and that was it. And it's like, the whole thing was like, you would never guess that looking at this kid that he's a fucking monster.
Again,
It's like he's a cute little kid,
yeah.
but this kid's a monster.
That's a Treehouse of Horror episode also.
Yeah, but see, like, what's crazy? Twilight Zone has been remade 3 times.
Yeah.
Once obviously the original started, it was in the early 50s, late 50s, early 60s. Then there was a 1980s reboot, basically. And then there was one in the early 2000s. And then I think 2019 was the last one, the one that Jordan Peele did. The one in the early 2000s was hosted by Forrest Whitaker.
Okay.
And so in that 2000s, 2003, it's still a Good Life. This was a follow-up 40 years after that episode with the original actor Billy Mooney, Cloris Leachman as his mother, and his actual daughter, Liliana Mooney, as his daughter in the episode. And this is where they find out that she actually has the same power, but she has the power to bring it back. They're trying to keep it from him, they're trying to keep him from finding out. And at this point, his power had grown so big, he basically wiped out the rest of the world outside of his little town. Everything was gone. All countries, skyscrapers, anything. All that they had to go by was grandma's stories of going to New York, seeing a big city, visiting this country and that, and all that beautiful stuff that they got to do. But once the father finds out that she has the power, he goes, make grandma's photo album disappear. Poof, gone. And then everybody pisses them off. Everybody said, finally, we can take Billy out. Now the daughter gets pissed and wipes everybody out because they're all going against his father. And she's like, we don't need anybody. She's like, hey, look, I just brought this back. Let's go take a plane to this place. I'm like, yo, this kid is incredible. This kid is wild. Worse than her father was when he was a kid. And it's cute because the girl looked exactly like him. Like, it's like, it's good that they got his own daughter because she looked exactly like he did, but it was so funny that they redid this episode with the same actors and his actual daughter, and she was even more powerful than he was. So let's see. Oh man, this is a long. Is this the one we just did?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the pool hall one. Okay. Anyway, all right. Do you guys have any other? Because of course, there's a living doll.
Well,
Living doll.
what I was going to say was, let's go reverse with the number one, specifically because, at least with me, because I'm going to tell you that my number one was Time at Last.
Okay.
And we already won it. We already did that, so, you know.
My number one, we actually already spoke about also.
Right.
To serve man.
So, you know,
I can show you now if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's in
yeah, they can see that.
there. But I would say this real quick, since we already spoke about the episode. The reason it's number one for me is that it's the first episode that I remember seeing. So it's like, as far as my memory is, that's the first episode of the Twilight Zone that I ever saw. So that's why it's number one for me.
Okay. So are we going into my number one? Now?
Yes.
Okay, ready for this?
Okay, so my number one is an episode called The Masks, season 5, episode 25, 1964. Now, there's an old man.
Everyone's seen this one, but they don't know that they've seen it. Go ahead.
Okay, so you got this old dying man, Jason Foster.
That's not right here.
Yep.
No, that's not them. That's from Beauty. That's from The Eye of the Beholder.
Oh.
Yeah, similar.
Very similar.
Yeah. Also, but that's also the same face as the Gremlin. If you think about it.
Yeah.
They probably had the same makeup that they had. You know, it's like, all right, we're gonna have to use this mold again. So, okay, so Jason Foster is an old man. He lives in New Orleans. He's dying. He's in a wheelchair, so he invites his daughter, her husband, and their kids over to his home on Mardi Gras. He loves Mardi Gras. He knows he's dying. His doctor's there telling him, look, you might not even make it through the night. So he invites his family over, and each one of them has an issue. Each one of them is like, there's something really fucking off about them, something really wrong. His daughter is one of those like worry warts, like always has something wrong with her. It's like, oh, hey, honey, how are you? And it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, well, you know, I'd be fine if this wasn't hurting. And it's like, and he's like, yeah, you always got something wrong with you. The husband, Wilford Harper, you know, that's such a 50s name. I feel. He was a what's the word, philanthropist, whatever it was. He was very greedy. With him, it was always about money, business, and I'm sorry, what is a philanthropist?
They like to donate and to.
Okay, so it's the opposite. Right, so he's the opposite of philanthropist. My bad. I'm sorry. You know, I can speak English, just don't know what all the words mean. But so he's one of those guys, like the opposite of a philanthropist. The daughter, well, their daughter is a vain person whose main focus of herself is vanity, where she's always like doing her makeup in the mirror, you know, always making sure she's pretty. And the son is like a big oafish doofus, like animal killer. Like this guy is, you know, the grandfather points out that he tortures and kills animals. So because of their personalities, he picked out these masks for them to basically fit their personality, their shitty personalities. So he picks out one for himself. It's a skull because he's so close to death. And he tells them, he's like, look, you guys can have everything that I own. You can have all my money. You can have my house. Anything and everything that I have will be yours. You just got to do this one thing. You got to wear these masks until midnight. So it's getting closer to midnight. They're like, oh, let's do it. You know, it's closer to midnight. You know, in all honesty, at first they didn't want to do it. They're like, come on, are you serious? Like, look, you want my money? This is what you're gonna have to do. So like, they agree. Closer it gets to midnight, the crazier it feels. It's like, oh, we gotta get I feel like I'm suffocating. I gotta get this off, please. Father, please get this off. And he's like, look, you have 5 minutes. It's almost over. Once that bell tolls, he's like, that's it. It's all yours. Everything that's mine is now yours. The house, the money, all my belongings, it's all yours. And he dies. They're like, oh, finally, he's dead. Good. Screw him. They take the masks off. Their faces have now been molded into the mask. They take the masks off. Their faces are the faces that were on that mask. Now they're rich. They're rich beyond like beyond anything they could have imagined. They're just ugly as fuck now. They're disgusting. And this is, they take the mask off of him after he dies. His face didn't change, but it's like they of course, it sends a message.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick. Because at some point, people are going to see who you actually are.
How ugly you are inside.
Exactly.
Patricia Ann made a great comment. But the children has ugly personalities, so their faces now match. Moral of the story: don't.
Oh, really? Honestly, I did not even see that. So we see we're right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's basically the.
That's a very good snap.
Yeah, and I feel like that really gives a good message. Again, it's like sooner or later, like you could be the most beautiful person on the planet, but once people see that you're a piece of shit, you're gonna look like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
If you know somebody who you might not think is that attractive, you talk to them, and you find out they got really good personality, that person is beautiful to you.
Yeah.
And it's true. You can have a great relationship with anybody if they're great people. People who shit on other people, they reveal it. It's like Shallow Hal.
Yeah.
When he saw there was that gorgeous woman, but she was such a piece of shit. She looked like an old crackhead.
Yeah.
And all the ugly or fat people, they were like gorgeous to
Right.
whatever. That's how you're going to start seeing people when you realize that they're good people or bad people. It's just people's personality will really shine through, whether good or bad, and that will determine how you actually look at them physically.
Grant, what's tonight's topic? Thanks, Grant.
Thank you
Twilight
Thank you
Zone.
for
Literally at the end.
It's all good, man. But thank you for joining us, though. I mean, I'm sorry that you got here so late, but
So I'll say this about masks: like it would have been number 6 on my list.
if we went up to 10,
No, well, I mean, if we would have went up to number 6, it would have been number 6.
Okay.
And the only reason I didn't bring it up when we were talking about honorable mentions is because I knew it was on your list,
gotcha.
and just now realizing it's number 1.
Yeah.
For those who don't, obviously you guys don't know, we sent our list to each other, but not in order,
Right.
just so that we would know what episodes we were going to talk about.
Well, it's also because I didn't have mine in order yet.
But
I knew the Masters
You know,
was number 1, though. I knew that was my
you know what I'm saying? Like, and obviously we did our honorable mentions right before number 1, so it's.
If you
I
guys-
decided not to mention it.
If you guys are in the podcast chat, send us ideas of episodes, because literally what happens is tomorrow morning we'll start talking like, all right, what do we want to talk about next week and stuff like that.
Oh, you kidding me? As soon as the camera goes off,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that's next week. That's next week.
And I'm like, I want to eat. I'm hungry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because like last week when we ended the episode and we came up with like, all right, what's next week? Gio said, how about we do an episode on the Twilight Zone? I'm like,
Yeah,
at the moment I was just like, yeah, I guess we could do that. And then the next 2 days, I'm like, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea. Because it's something that we know a lot of people talk about. We know a lot of people. It's one of those shows. Here it is. What is it? It was 60 years later. Not 60, like 50 years later.
I mean,
No, I'm sorry. Like 70 years later. Like 70, yeah.
Going from icons to the Twilight Zone is not a big jump.
Right. Because Twilight Zone is an iconic TV show. Legendary. Then again, like you said, we can always take something and attribute it to something that was on the Twilight Zone. So, are we ready for our flick picks, or are we still talking about this?
Maria Rossetti, your sister.
Okay.
How about horror movies based on true stories? that episode is coming.
It's in the works. It's definitely in the works.
We're trying to do with heroes too, and it's kind of
We're
hard
trying to do
do.
stuff
I'm not
together.
gonna do that, but we're gonna figure something out on how to do that.
So I was gonna say, so you have what's your?
My pick for this week, going back again pre-MCU with Fantastic Four, first one with Ian Ruffalo, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and Chris Evans. You know, origin story of the Fantastic Four could have been great, was good, but yeah, it was with the new one coming out. You know, get reacquainted with the old one.
That thing is cursed.
Ian Ruffalo supposedly is making an appearance in the new one, so we'll see. But and if you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, you see where that version of Johnny Storm came.
I was gonna say they almost had Jessica Alba naked in that.
They did have Jessica Alba.
Well, you know,
But she was invisible.
She did attack.
no, yeah, I
I
know.
want to see when she was visible, when she was covering up.
Yeah, and she didn't realize she was gonna disappear.
Mhm.
Yeah, still didn't have control.
Wasn't that in part 2?
Yes, the committee.
Yeah.
That happened to both of them.
Tiffany, what's
They try to
the
get naked in every movie.
Tiffany? What's your movie pick?
Right, what?
What's the movie that you picked?
I can't, and I lost it.
Talk to me, damn it! I'm gonna throw you into the fire.
I lost it. Whatever movie I said I watched earlier, I really think there wasn't a lot of
Dark
A lot-
something.
dark and wicked, or wicked and dark things. Something like that. I mean, it's an autobiography. It's my autobiography. No, I'm kidding. I didn't hear a lot about it, and so to just kind of flip it on, I saw a reel that was kind of making fun of it. And I was like, oh, well, this will be a waste of time. But it was actually such a really great storyline. I really don't want to give it away. I just think they just turn it on. I think we watched it on Amazon Prime. We didn't have to pay anything for it, which is always a plus. But I really think you guys would like it. You should check it out.
Mine is Titanic. It's about a woman that screws a homeless kid and then drowns him.
Okay, so my pick is an anthology horror, since Twilight Zone is an anthology, style show. It's called Body Bags. It's from 1993. It was originally a Showtime movie. It was actually supposed to be a show, but they kind of squashed it, so they just turned it into they just made it a made-for-Showtime movie. You got John Carpenter hosting it as the coroner. They made him look really ghoulish, and it's great.
More ghoulish.
Yeah, he directed two of the stories in there: The Gas Station and Hair. Hair is weird. Stacy Keach is in it, and he's like a balding guy, and he tries to get a hair transplant, and it just goes really bad. And there's also The Eye, that was directed by Tobe Hooper. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Mark Hamill plays a baseball player who loses his eye, and they replace it with the eye of a serial killer. So it's an interesting movie. As far as anthologies go, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
Crazy to think that it could have been a series that we kind of lost out on, but you can watch it on Prime Video, Tubi, Shudder, Peacock, AMC Plus. There's also a bunch of other ones that like Freeview or whatever, Freebie. So check it out. A lot of recognizable faces. Even Wes Craven has a small part in the first story.
I just want to say one more thing, just because I don't think we can go an episode without mentioning him. So Art the Clown.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. So before we go, I'm just going to leave you with my usual message, and I've said it before. Every movie is worth seeing. How else would you know if it's a piece of shit or not?
Right. Don't trust people. Good luck, people.
Have a great week.
Have great dreams.